How's it going, my EskimoTV viewers? I'm your host, Jason Escamilla. Today I'm talking about Paddington 2, which is directed by Paul King, who also directed the first film. Now, these films are based off of the series of children's books, which Michael Bond wrote. Now, I never read these books growing up, but the covers reminded me of the book Corduroy, which I did enjoy as a kid. Are they similar? I have no clue, but this movie utilizes the voice of Ben Whishaw, who voices Paddington, and stars Hugh Bonneville and Sally Hawkins, who all do a superbulous job with their part. One thing I want to point out is that this movie could really be a standalone film. You do not need to watch the previous movie in order to understand this one. Although, I did watch the first movie prior to seeing part 2, and I enjoyed it. So, if you haven't seen the first Paddington movie and you have the time, it's worth a watch. It's really good. I'd give part 1 a really good grade. It's like A- or B+. It's definitely entertaining. And you will understand a little bit more about Paddington's history if you do go watch that film. So in this standalone adventure, Paddington is wanting to get his Aunt Lucy, who is the only remaining bear family member that Paddington has, a pop-up book of London for her 100th birthday. Paddington ends up saving the amount of money he needs for the book by washing windows, but unfortunately, someone breaks into the shop and steals the book. Paddington attempts to chase this culprit down and is unsuccessful. Subsequently, the police end up thinking Paddington is the criminal and they decide to send him away to prison. The movie focuses on Paddington, a nice and overly polite bear, interacting with hardened criminals. And we see the Brown family, who is the family that Paddington lives with in London, as they are trying to find the person who is actually responsible for stealing the pop-up book. I enjoyed this movie. I don't have any big complaints. This is a perfect family film. Kids will absolutely love it, and adults will probably find most of it to be entertaining. There's a lot of unrealistic and hard to believe scenarios, but because the movie commits to that extreme unlikeliness early on, it didn't bother me. For crying out loud, this is a kids movie with a talking bear that people accept as a part of their society. No one questions it, and you sort of get over the fact that everything's unrealistic. I got over it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. If unrealistic situations really bother you, then it may be uneasy to swallow, but I found this second installment of Paddington to keep my attention and entertain me throughout the majority of its duration. The film makes great use of its 1 hour and 43 minutes. You feel like the story is moving along at a nice pace. There's not a big drag or set of boring sequences. It was a joyful ride that had excellent pacing, and the character motivations, including the crazy antagonist, are all very clear, and you understand why all of the characters are making the decisions that they're making. Look, for this being a kids movie, I really enjoyed it, and the producer of the Paddington films is David Heyman, who also produced the Harry Potter series. And the colors and animation sequences in this film had a striking resemblance of the first 2 Harry Potter films, which were more kids' movies than the other 6 Harry Potter films that came out after. Now, obviously, the premises and conflicts are completely unrelated to Harry Potter, but when it comes to the cinematography, this world that Paddington resides in is beautiful with bright, saturated colors and features animation sequences that are very well edited and framed quite nicely. There's one sequence showing Paddington walking through a pop-up book world that stood out to me. It was very unique, and you can tell it was animated in a completely different way than your typical CGI animation you're used to seeing. And I loved it. Finally, I'd say that this stands up next to the first movie. I don't know which is better. They're probably both in the same ballpark. I may be inclined to say that I liked this second installment just a hair more. And there's really no big flaws with this movie. The only thing I can say is if children films or unrealistic situations annoy you, then Paddington 2 might not be your cup of tea. For me, it was a joyful watch that succeeded in creating a fun film that the whole family can enjoy. With that being said, I'm going to give Paddington 2 an A-. Are you excited to see Paddington 2? And for those of you that have seen it, did you enjoy Paddington or Paddington 2 more? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you liked what you see here and you want to see more, subscribe to EskimoTV for more icy and chilly EskimoTV reviews.